What are some of those industrial uses? Obviously, there's many thousands of them that
Yeah.
I think would be very important towards the future economy, do you think?
Well, anything electrical or electronic has to have silver. So, the big one now would be solar, photovoltaics. Photography's gone, and it was a zero-sum game anyway. But it's primarily the electronics industry. The thing that's the well-known secret amongst a few that study it is the battery market. It's a silver zinc battery is far superior to almost any battery out there, especially lithium, but no one wants to come to the fore and talk about it because it's only used primarily in military applications. But if you have a hearing aid battery, what do you have? You have a zinc silver battery. Why? Because it's about that big. It's in your earpiece and it lasts for 2 years before you have to replace it. How would you like to have a cell phone that goes for 2 years before you have to charge your phone? I'm not saying that's the case, but you get the general idea of the superiority of silver over other metals as far as a storage vehicle for batteries.
What are some of
That's
the
one. I mean, there's others. I mean, I could go on. I mean, there's been one, for example, there was a way to preserve wood using silver ions, and it would basically wipe out the silver supply. So that's not going to happen. So they use copper carbonate instead, and it works okay. I mean, you could substitute copper for silver in some applications, but you're going to get a much inferior product. You're not going to have the 100% reliability that you have with silver in the circuit. So, and I mean, these engineers are pretty smart. I mean, I am an or was an engineer, but the idea is that they have what they call thrifted, and this is typical across all economics. The manufacturers of a given product determine the minimum amount required to produce the most efficient product available. So in other words, a solar panel is a good example. If you go back to 2000 and look at a solar panel, and you look at 2020, the same solar voltaic uses 1/2 the amount of silver it used 20 years ago, and has the same or better than not only reliability but the output. So that's called, again, thrifting or productive enhancement or whatever you want to call it. So this happens across the board, but in silver is particularly interesting because most applications use so little silver in the final product that the cost of the silver is almost insignificant to the cost of the product itself. The amount of silver in a solar panel is minuscule, must be there, but it's very low in price versus what the price of the panel itself is. And nonetheless, the manufacturers do the best they can to use as little as possible, which makes sense. I mean, I'm not against that. It's just typical good economics. In fact, if you're on a sound monetary system, your money after 10, 20, 30, 40 years would actually be more valuable because of that process. Things keep getting better and better, more efficient, and they fine-tune things, and therefore most products will become better over time. So your dollar actually buys more. I should say your money. I don't know if I should use my currency buys more.
Yeah. I think in addition to what you said earlier about the batteries, that really stands out because we're seeing a big surge in electronic vehicles right now, like scooters. People are riding these scooters all around. And obviously, there's like some new electronic car companies coming out as well. So
there is graphene. I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, I'm going to get, or you will. I leave the comments off. I mean, I let, my paid people do whatever they wish because they pay me. But graphene is quite an interesting situation. I wouldn't say studied it. I studied parts of it. But, there could be a silver substitute. I'm going to say silver is absolutely it. So far it is. But I'm smart enough to know that my predecessor, Jerome Smith, made a big error in his forecast about silver being, $200 an ounce by the mid 90s, which would have taken place if it wasn't for a huge technological change that took place in the mining industry. So having learned that lesson well, I'm always remiss to say it's thus and so going forward, because that's a linear projection. And we know that the world does not move in a linear fashion. So I'm always a little cautious to say, well, this, that, and the other, because, there could be a substitute. Graphene is. It's just very expensive to put that graphite molecule by molecule or atom by atom, I think, in the nano field. But once it's accomplished, it's quite an interesting properties that exist.
Yeah. Before, I guess,